Welcome on in, MLB First Pitch on WagerTalk TV. While you're hanging out with us, hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribed because even though football season is rolling on, we're getting you those baseball winners day after day here, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. Milwaukee, Arizona, Red Sox, Yankees. Those are two games we'll be talking about at the top. Best bets coming in the marquee matchup of the Chicago White Sox and the Oakland Athletics. And we'll be talking a true marquee matchup with history on the watch for Shohei Ohtani when we get a best bet in the Dodgers and Braves. Breaking down those games, I got with me Bryan, Leonard, Steve Merril. Gentlemen, I'm excited. We got a full baseball slate as we head on into the football weekend, but Steve, like we say, shh, it's quiet time. We can still make money betting baseball, and your guys' clients know that better than most. Bri, I'm going to kick it off with you, and let's take a look here at Milwaukee taking on the D-backs. Looks like Peralta and Rodriguez for this 9:40 start is what we'll be seeing. And Bri, I don't know if it was a scheduled day off or the Diamondbacks asked for one so that their bats didn't catch on fire. 32 runs in 3 straight wins for this D-back side. So I look at this game and I'm wondering for you, do you have any answer for what does Milwaukee either have to do to keep up with this offensive output, or do you think they have something that maybe can slow it down a little bit? And if so, can they potentially get the W here as they open up the series at Arizona? How are you looking to break this one down, Brian?
Yeah, two very good teams playing very good ball. The Brewers enter today with a 9-game division lead. Arizona comes in just 2 games up in the wild card race. I believe they're 5 behind the Dodgers now. So Milwaukee's playing free and easy right now while the pressure is on the defending National League champions. Freddie Peralta's a guy who I've liked to use, especially down the stretch. He seems to pitch better in the second half of a lot of these seasons, and he hasn't really put it all together this year, but he is showing some signs. Another solid season. He's ranking in the 69th percentile or higher in 6 different categories, including the 87th percentile in whiff rate, which is something you always want if you need a strikeout. You want to get those guys with high whiff rates. He's pitched much better on the road. He's got a 3.39 ERA on the road this year. And it is his first start against the Diamondbacks all season. And you mentioned how well Arizona is hitting. I think that's an advantage for Peralta and the Brewers here. Eduardo Rodriguez, he just hasn't performed well since missing the vast majority of the season because of injuries and surgery. He enters play with a 5.83 ERA, a whopping 1.53 whip. And because of his limited innings, his StatCast numbers have not qualified as of yet. But the 2 most sticky stats, which are fastball velocity and extension, he has qualified in that, and it hasn't been good. He's in the 18th percentile in fastball velocity and in the 36th percentile in extension. He has 6 starts on the season, and he's permitted 3 earned runs or more in 5 of them. The only good start he had was against the light-hitting Miami Marlins on the road in a really good pitching ballpark. So we've got 2 very good hitting clubs here, but we trust the Brewers staff much more in this contest. Williams is back closing. He's gotten to the point now where he can pitch more than 1 day at a time. I love the back end of this Milwaukee bullpen. Arizona is a team that's going to be hard to beat in the playoffs and the rest of the season. But in this individual game, I like the number here with Milwaukee and a starter that I can actually trust. Can't trust Rodriguez yet for Arizona.
Muted, Dan.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Steve. Yeah, the cat got my tongue on that one. The cat's not even with Bryan Leonard, and then somehow still finding a way to mess with the show here.
And stole your Steve, cat, Bryan. You better hustle home.
He did. He stole my cat. I thought that background looked familiar.
Well, I knew the viewers wanted the cat when I opened up the chat here right away. We had Eric D hopping in the chat saying Bryan let the kitty out of its cage. So I was just looking out for you, Bryan. So no worries. Shout out to the chat. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe while we're hanging out. Hop below in the comments. This is a hell of a slate here tonight. A lot of marquee matchups and a lot of potential playoff previews in the case of some of these series that we'll be talking about here. This one maybe not a playoff preview, but always a storied rivalry, Steve, when you're looking at the Red Sox and the Yankees. And for the Yankees, something that we've talked about is just the streaks up and down, and the streaks have continued for this team. Now 5-2 after suffering a 3-6 run. And it's not really like they're making your eyes pop out of your head right now. They're not doing anything flashy, are the men in pinstripes, but what they're doing is doing just enough to get the W, whether it's a late hit, whether it's, having pitching, be able to boot them a little bit. But all they're doing, Steve, is continuing to pad that lead that they're holding in the AL East. So for you here in game 2, you think that's going to continue here? Or do we get a punch back from their rivaled Red Sox?
Yeah, this is definitely one of the better games on the board for Friday night. It's a huge rival, Red Sox, Yankees. We're going to look at a free play here in this game. Just a quick reminder, my best bets for Friday night also, including college football, some advanced college football at WagerTalk.com. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But Yankees are the best team in the American League. You look at run differential, they're plus 125. They're actually now 41 net runs better than the Orioles, even though they're only 2 games ahead. Red Sox still fighting for that wild card spot, though, so this does have some playoff implications. Red Sox currently 4.5 back of the wild card with about 15 games to go. So they're likely not going to get there. What jumps out to me between these teams, and the reason the Yankees are so much better this year, is that they're 50-34 against winning teams. Red Sox are 34-53 against winning teams, and that includes that extra inning 2-1 loss to the Yankees last night in Game 1. Now, I thought New York would come out focused for the start of the series. They did. But I think that focus remains tonight. I'd rather have the Yankees at home as the favorite. And also, we look at this pitcher matchup tonight, and Clark Schmidt, very underrated pitcher. He's only gone 65 innings this year, but he's had an excellent 2.3 ERA. And if you go back over his last 7 starts, this is only his second start since May. But his last 7 starts this season, going all the way back to the end of April, he's been even stronger, a 1.6 ERA when he's a starting pitcher. So I like that matchup here. Also, look at Tanner Houck is wearing down, 3.2 ERA in the season, but going all the way back to the start of August, his last 7 starts, a 4.7 ERA. The key's wearing down as the season progresses. He did not look good in his last start against the Mets, giving up 5 hits, 4 runs in just 5 innings. So I like the pitching edge tonight. We get the better overall team, and we get a focused spot against their arch rival. And this is an Apple TV, national TV game, one of the 2, Braves-Dodgers being the other. So take a look at the Yankees here as the home favorite, currently managed $1.50 or so, so shop around to get the best number. And don't forget, if you want my official best bets, they're on a 27-7 baseball run. You heard me right, 27-7. 24-6 actually sounds more impressive, but 27-7 makes you more money. So you can cut it either way you want. Current 24-6, 27-7 baseball runs. I believe it's Friday the 13th. Pulled out my scary mask. And here's what's funny. Back holding it up was a White Sox mini helmet, which I find much scarier than the hockey mask. But either way, it's Friday the 13th. You get an instant 13% off. WagerTalk.com. Check out my daily free plays as well. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, if you go on over to the deals page, head office having some fun. They're calling it the Spooktacular Friday the 13th special that they have going on there. 13% off any regular price product when you use the code FRY13. That's not Bry13. That's FRI13. And you can check that out, WT.buzz/deals. You also know, guys, that it's 2024 because Steve Merril used the term Apple TV national TV game. This is the times that we live in, folks, that you got to be streaming to get the national TV games for sure. I have about $1 million, and it's costing me more than it ever cost me to get cable. But hey, we're innovating, right, guys? This was just me up on my pulpit a little bit about the state of streaming. Wisconsin guy in the chat, buddy. It's great to see you. It's been a while. Glad that you're back here. He wants to talk talk and hear what your guys' thoughts are on a potential line move that he saw light up the free live odds screen over at WagerTalk.com, WagerTalk.com/odds. We'll get you there nice and quick. He was saying the Padres line getting steamed up a little bit with some action coming in on the Giants. So for you, Bry, we'll start. It looks like it's Cease and Webb, and those are locked in, barring any late changes. But we've seen some money push this number onto the key number, looking at that 7, still under juiced as it opened at 6.5. And he's looking at maybe some potential action going one way or the other. So any thoughts for you in this 10-15 special San Diego and the San Francisco Giants?
Well, you do have two of the elite. Well, I don't know if I'd call it quite elite. Logan Webb's been terrific his entire career, but two of the best starters in Major League Baseball going into that game. And San Francisco is not a team that's going to score a lot of runs on you. I hate to go under 7 because it's such a low number. But then again, when you take a look at both these bullpens, they've started to, especially San Francisco, they've had some problems in the back end of the bullpen, but I think they're starting to figure it out a little bit. San Diego's back end of the bullpen is elite. It's up there with Cleveland. They're just so many good, excellent guys in the back of this bullpen that all you really need is 6 innings out of Cease, and you could be that could be the end of your scoring. So I like the pitching matchup here, but just don't like going the under 7. As for the side, I think it's fairly priced. It's basically a pickup situation, and that's what I would grade it out as. So I don't have enough information to put out a play on this game, but it's something. Hey, the best part about today's schedule, and these are my favorite ones of the week, is all the games are on the evening card. You don't have to make, like, especially if you're playing fantasy or you're playing props and that kind of stuff. You've got plenty of time to take a look at this and take a look at the odds and see who the lineups are. And you don't always get that in a lot of these early games. So what we're going with is a slight lean to the under, but not enough to make a selection here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, just going under that 7, especially when you saw it open at 6.5, Steve, is definitely a tough proposition. Anything else that you have to add there on that late night game? If not, we're going to swing forward to this 6:40 start because Eric D points out in the chat, it should be a hell of a series between the Mets and the Phillies, especially with the Phillies getting healthy. Steve, I did a 1 day off from talking about the Phillies on yesterday's show since there were some comments saying, Dan, we don't need to hear that you're a Phillies homer. We know that. But, it's a great segue always into the Phillies games for sure. So any thoughts there on the late night game? If not, would love to hear what you think about Quintana going against Nola here. And it seems like my Phil's getting healthy at just the right time.
Your Phillies are 30 games above 500. They're 8 games up in the division, so it's a done deal there. But I think the real story here is the Mets. Look at them, New York Mets. They've now passed the Braves, and they are in the wild card spot. The Braves are now 1 game out looking in. The Mets are making quite a run here as they finish out the regular season to get into the postseason. They're 8-2. Both teams, Phillies and Mets, 8-2 their last 10. But the Mets have been even stronger down the stretch. They've now gone 15-5 their last 20. Phillies 14-6. Both teams exactly 19-11 their last 30. So on paper, this is a pretty even matchup, even though the Phillies have been the better team all season. As is often the case when teams are playing good baseball, they're getting some runs. If you look at this Phillies squad, Dan, they have now scored 5 runs or more, I believe, in 4 of their last 8 games. And over half their last 8 games, they've had 5 or more runs. And the Mets have done the same. The Mets have put up 6 runs or more in 4 of their last 8. So both teams capable of putting up some offense tonight. Aaron Nola on the mound. He's a good pitcher, but if you look at his numbers this year, 3.4 ERA is very average. And then, of course, Quintana, 4.1 ERA, and he's been wearing down since the start of August. His last 7 starts, a 4.7 ERA. So I do think both offenses can get some runs tonight. That 8.5 also is obviously a nice number. We look at the team totals also, 4.5 and 3.5. I'm a little surprised to see the Mets at only 3.5 on the team total. So I think that Mets team total over 3.5 has some value as well.
Bryan, I'm wondering for you, anything jump off the board for you in that Mets and Phillies game? Because it's definitely one of the more intriguing games of the night. You have time, obviously, to check it out as well. And it's going to be one of the more, series that people are watching this weekend as well going in Philly. So definitely wanted to get your thoughts on this one before we bounce around a couple other games. Folks, don't worry. Best bets are coming up. Talking Dodgers, Braves, marquee matchup there. And Bryan has a play for you in the Chicago White Sox and the Oakland A's. And it might not just be what you expect, so stick around. Best bets in that one. But Mets and Phils for you, Bryan. You think there could be some value here looking at the Mets and their team total like Steve does, or are you seeing this a different way?
Well, Steve talked about Quintana's current run, pitching-wise, being poor. But he has turned it around his last 3 starts. He went 6 1/3 against the Padres, no earned runs. I got to play what we consider the Chicago White Sox for the most part. 5 innings, 1 earned run, and then he played the Cincinnati Reds 6 2/3 innings, 0 earned runs. So he's on a good run. But I bet when I take a look at games and take a look at pitchers, I do it like the stock market. You want to bet when the pitcher is down. You want to bet against him when he's up, and he's up the last 3 starts. He's been pitching very well. We have seen him enough. He's a quality major league pitcher, no doubt about it. He's been around a long time, but he's pitching over his head as of late. I expect him to come down a little bit in this one. And when you're playing a Phillies team that is, 1 through 9, you're not going to find many teams as deep as Philadelphia. And they've got some guys on the bench just about every day that would start on most major league teams. So very good hitting team, very good hitting ballpark. And I think Quintana is pitching over his head right now, which would put us on Philadelphia. Better team. I think they and the Dodgers are the 2 best teams right now in Major League Baseball, 2 most complete teams, and they're both coming from the National League. I like the match. I like what they've done. If it's Grimace, great. If it's not, whatever. They're playing good ball. And I'm very happy for half of New York to finally have a team that is possibly making the playoffs this year.
Yeah, see, I was just going to keep bouncing back and forth until someone told me why they like the Phillies tonight. So that was well done. Great breakdown there by both of the guys. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what games you're eyeing to be placing some wagers on tonight and what your best bets are. These guys are going to give theirs in just a few here. And as we mentioned, go on over WT.buzz/deals. We got that spooktacular savings that we have for Friday the 13th, but that's not the only deals that we have going. And Steve will tell you about one a little bit later where you can take $50 off an MLB package. So deals getting loaded all the time over at WT.buzz/deals. So if you've never tried us out before, I would argue that this time, the best time to try it out. All right, Steve, we talked about my Philadelphia Phillies. So let's talk about your, no, I'm not going Nationals. I'm going Baltimore Orioles here because a little curveball, a little ski and slurve action there for you. But Orioles and the Tigers, because, you think of just, if you just blindly looked at the record of the Baltimore Orioles, you'd say, okay, they're fine. But now they're sitting down, 15 regular season games left. And it's just kind of been this rigmarole just going around the drain for the Orioles. Haven't really found any semblance of footing. It's just kind of been mediocre is the best way to describe this Baltimore Orioles team, not just recently, but really post All-Star break. So they'll have Eflin on the mound tonight. They're going against Herter. Both of these teams pretty damn desperate for a win. Who do you think could potentially return to form here as they open up another set here in Detroit?
Yeah, I talked earlier about how the Yankees are only 2 games up over the Orioles, but they're 41 net runs better this year. Orioles have really been a mediocre team here in recent weeks, really recent months, and the Orioles are also just 40-39 against winning teams this season. The Tigers are a winning team, 75-72 overall this season. Tigers are 8 games below 500 though against winning squads, and that's why they're on the outside looking in. They're currently 3.5 back of that last wild card spot, but they're still in the mix. Despite going just 9-11 their last 20. Orioles, meanwhile, are 13-7 their last 20. So even though we feel like they're playing lackluster baseball, they have started to heat up here in recent weeks. Had their 4-game winning streak snapped with that loss against Colorado. I don't look too much into that. That was the third of a 3-game home series against one of the worst teams in baseball. I'm sorry, that's Detroit, rather. I was talking about they had that 4-game winning streak snapped. but they now stay at home to take on a better competition in the Baltimore Orioles. Orioles traveling after the 3-game Red Sox series. They've lost 4 out of 5. So this is a Detroit team. I said Baltimore 13-7. I meant Detroit. I was talking Detroit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit's in better current form. Orioles are just 9-11 their last 20. I'm not going to overthink this one right now. I still think we get some value fading Baltimore. Detroit is undecided on the WagerTalk Live odds screen, so we'll see who they officially go with. Eflin, meanwhile, is in good current form. The under could be worth a look also. It's under right now, minus 115, 8 under. I think that also has some value, but we got to see who the pitcher is going to be for Detroit first.
WT.buzz/SM. You can find him on Twitter. Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L. You can find Bryan Leonard at B Leonard Sports. Bryan, last question for you before we get into some best bets here. FB Coach 13. Appreciate you tuning in. Hit that like button, guys and gals, while you're hanging out. And if you're following us on social, make sure you hit that follow button on TikTok, Instagram, X. We do appreciate it. But FB Coach wants to hear about the Cincinnati Reds and the Minnesota Twins. The Cincinnati Reds maybe looking to play a little bit of spoiler here because it's go time. You talk about how it's go time for the Orioles. You know, they're talking about seeding. The Twins are talking about do or die time right here. They can't afford a slip up as they're taking on this 3-game set here against the Cincinnati Reds. Looking like Aguilar and Ober is what I'm seeing here as far as the starting pitching goes. Any thoughts for you in this one? Because a lot of times, just because we get into the must-win part of the year, doesn't mean it's going to be the will win. You're probably in that situation for a bad reason, and the Twins are sitting in that kind of situation right now, Bry. So how are you breaking this one down with the Reds and the Twins?
Yeah, sort of how I talked about the Brewers playing nice and easy right now. That's not the Minnesota Twins. The Twins could have the best personnel in the American League if they hadn't struggled so much against the New York Yankees in the playoffs, and you don't know who they're going to play. I may put some money on Minnesota. I mean, their pitching staff is coming around. Lopez has been terrific. Ober, he'll have a bad start. He's had 2 really bad starts this season. Other than that, he has been pretty much unhittable. The line tells you Minnesota should win, and I agree. When you take a look at the starting pitching matchup, Aguilar, I've been fading pretty much the entire time he's been up. Ober's a guy that I like to back, but you're getting in that price range here. You get a 210, 215. I like Minnesota, but I'm not going to put my hard-earned money on them based on that number because, as I mentioned, all the pressure is on them right now. They fought all season long. Very good team, a lot of talent. But I don't want to be backing a team like that where they're back to the wall and you're laying this type of number. So it'll keep me off of it. Maybe the over is probably the way to go here because we want to fade Aguilar. But 8.5 looks like it's a pretty good number. So I'll have to pass on this one. But yeah, it's interesting when you take a look, going back to the game that Steve had talked about with Boston and then the Yankees. The Yankees against 500 ball clubs have been outstanding, better than 500 ball clubs. And as it was pointed out, Baltimore's only 1 game over 500. And that, when you get to the playoffs, obviously you're playing a lot of good baseball teams. It hasn't really worked out in the past that means much, but it does. I would rather have a team that has played good opposition and performed well than a team that has struggled in that regard. So, Baltimore's a team I took the over on coming into the season, and I like them. But, yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the way they've been playing as of late.
Yeah, and Steve, last one before best bets. I know I said that before, but then we got one more question here. And, we love the chat because you guys make this show what it is. So hit that like button. We appreciate that. Colin Campbell was chiming in saying, have we done the Cubs and the Rockies yet? And I thought it was an apropos timing for the question simply because we're talking about teams who can't afford losses right now as we're rounding out this playoff picture, just half of September continuing before we get into October and what I hope will be a red October, but that's for another show, Steve. Cubs can't afford to slip up either, and they're taking on the Rockies, and it's in Colorado where, some wonky things can always happen, and it's where the Rockies kind of play some of their best ball. So is there concern for you for the Cubs heading into this matchup tonight before we talk some best bets?
Well, one team could definitely afford a loss, and that's Colorado. Although they're actually tied with Miami right now for the worst record. They're identical, 55 and 92. So they're tied for the worst record in the National League. Nobody is going to catch the White Sox, who are 33 and 114. Looking forward to Bryan Leonard's best bet on that Oakland-Chicago White Sox game. Myself and my mini helmet here are anxiously awaiting to see how he's approaching that game in a moment. But yeah, the Rockies are a really bad team. But as you said, Dan, they're always much better at home. In fact, they build that roster to play better at home. And this year, to put it in perspective, they're 5 games below 500 at home, despite being, 32 games below 500 on the road, 5 versus 32. So this is a team that's a better home team. With that said, the Cubs have been playing good baseball over the past couple months. They're still 5 games out of the last wild card spot with about 16 games to go. I said that a couple weeks ago when they're on that monster run. I just didn't think they had enough time to catch up. And despite being 19 and 11 their last 30, they're still going to be on the outside looking in. So whether they kind of take their foot off the gas here in the next week once they know the season's over, we've got to be careful with. But they are playing hard right now. Colorado returns home off an extended 9-game road trip. That's usually a negative spot. The sweet spot, though, is when they have a day off. And they did just play in Detroit yesterday. But still, it's not a great situation for Colorado. And as you know, one of my favorite angles is to play Game 1 road favorites on Friday night, the better team in a focused spot. So even though Colorado is a good home team with altitude, the Cubs minus $1.30 or so is probably the safer play in this game.
Steve Merril, check him out over at WagerTalk.com. All right, it's the moment we've all been waiting for, Bryan. We all want to know about you. Who cares about this playoff talk? We want to know how many games are the Chicago White Sox going to lose. It's the premier matchup. We go from the Cubbies to the White Sox. They're hosting the A's, and they're looking for their first home win, Bry, since August 12th. It's been a while for the Chicago White Sox side. So I'm wondering, are you going full game? Are you going to maybe try and split it up a little bit? Tell folks about what you have over at WagerTalk.com, these great deals that they have rocking, and then let us know what we've all been waiting with bated breath for. How the hell do we bet Oakland and Chicago?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the rest of the baseball card today. As I mentioned, everything is on the nighttime card. I'm waiting around for certain numbers. I'm a guy who plays numbers, not teams. So if I can get the numbers I'm looking for, those will be a play. As of right now, I have nothing up today, but I will have games before it all ends. But I do have a big 5% play in college football going tomorrow. It's our first 5% in any football game so far this season. We've had a lot of success with our 5% plays just in baseball, 70% on the season. And as a lot of people know, I play a lot of underdogs, so that's pretty impressive. But as of right now, nothing in baseball, but check back later. I'm sure we'll have a lot of stuff up there based on that. But yeah, 3 plays up for tomorrow so far in college football, including that 5%. Tried to stick with more games that a lot of people care about. And so a limited card for tomorrow, but hopefully it'll work out very well. And we've had a lot of success in college football the last couple of years. Let's get to this game. Everybody's sitting there with bated breath with the A's and the White Sox, but I think we've got a way to play this, and we may not need the White Sox to win the game. And I think you know what I'm talking about here. I'm going to take a look at the first 5 in this one. You know, the A's have improved themselves at home this year, as you would expect from a younger team. Usually, Steve will say the same thing, that younger teams tend to play better at home than they do on the road. And if a team starts being very competitive at home, it's something to take a look at for the next year. We see it all the time in the NBA. Young teams perform much better at home one season, then the next year they carry it on to the road. The Oakland A's are 36 and 39 in the Big O, which is pretty good considering the talent they have on that team. But they're only 28 and 44 when they head to the road. Brady Basso is taking the hill for the visitor in this one. He's only pitched 9.1 innings thus far, but his numbers have looked good. In his last appearance, he started for the first time, shutting out the Tigers in 6 solid innings. So if you're looking to back this young lefty, you're doing so at probably a likely high, and that's not something we look to do. Because of his limited innings, most of his StatCast numbers are incomplete, but it doesn't take long to qualify when it comes to fastball velocity and extension. Those are the 2 stickiest numbers in the StatCast portfolio. And in the fastball velocity, he's in the 27th percentile. extension in the 35th percentile. He's already 26 years old, so don't get your expectations too high for Basso. Oakland's gone through a lot of starting pitchers, and they don't really have great starting pitching this season, but they have been able to bring up some guys and give them a chance to pitch in the majors. And so far, Basso's looked good, but I don't want to be on him today. Garrett Crochet, obviously, he's been an elite pitcher all season long, but as we all know, the White Sox have been limiting his innings for quite some time. He's in the 83rd percentile or better in 8 different stat categories. Since May, he's been excellent in bounce-back opportunities. After allowing 3 earned runs or more, he has permitted just 2 earned runs in his last 13.2 innings. And as we remember, last time out, Crochet gave up 4 earned runs in only 2 innings against the Red Sox. And this is also the first time the A's have faced him all season long. That's an advantage for the starting pitcher. That's an advantage to the better pitcher, much better pitcher in my regard here. And the White Sox are favored in the first 5, as you would expect. We expect Crochet to go probably 4 here unless there's an injury or he does get hit hard and then we're screwed anyway. But if he does go his 4 or 5 innings, I really like their chances here against Oakland. And as the game goes on, I'm not willing to back my money with the White Sox bullpen. So let's go for Chicago in the first half. There's a reason why they're favored here. We'll go with Chicago minus the 115 to 120 in that regard, with Garrett Crochet to continue on his just excellent season. And hopefully in the offseason, the White Sox trade him and he gets to pitch complete games.
If it's quiet time in MLB, it's definitely quiet time on the game that probably no one will have on their set. But guess what? That money is spending all the same. I love the breakdown there, Bryan, looking towards Chicago White Sox, not to continue to break history, but at least hold a lead after the first 5. That's Bryan Leonard, WT.buzz/BL. Steve, you have a game that if we do end up watching that White Sox and Oakland A's game, we can clean our mouth out. We can wash our eyes out because you want to talk Dodgers and Bravos. This is a marquee matchup. And not only is it obviously an interesting 4-game set, we're going to get 4 games of this great matchup. All eyes have to be on this matchup tonight if you're a baseball fan, simply because we're watching to see does Ohtani make history. It kind of seems like a foregone conclusion that he will. He picked up his 47th homer and his 48th stolen base. So he's 2 away from reaching 50 on the bases, and he's 3 away from reaching 50 as far as home runs. He would be the first player in MLB history to accomplish such a feat. So, outside of what a great series this is, I mean, Ohtani could be making history against the Braves here. So thoughts on him chasing, and obviously let us know the best bet in this game, Steve.
Never hurts when you know the best player in baseball is going to be focused for a series, and Ohtani has plenty to play for with the stolen bases, the home runs still to come. But I think the Dodgers are the play in this game. I'm going to give you some reasons why here in just a moment. A free play in the Dodgers Braves at 7 Eastern tonight on Apple TV. If you're not getting the Red Sox Yankees, you're getting Dodgers Braves on Apple TV. I don't even understand how Apple TV works. Maybe you get both games. I don't have Apple TV. But seriously, this is a great matchup. And I'm going to lean towards the better team in a focus spot whenever I can. And the Braves are not a playoff team right now. Don't look now, but the New York Mets have passed, and Braves are currently sitting 1 out of the wild card. And they are 9 behind the Phillies, of course. They're not going to win that division. Dodgers, meanwhile, the best team in baseball. Everybody knew that coming in, but they actually don't have the most wins now. The Phillies have 88 wins. The Dodgers have 87. But LA is still a very talented team. They hold the pitching edge, the offensive edge here, and I think the momentum edge tonight, and it's a pick-em price. In fact, the Braves opened overnight as a slight favorite in many spots, but we've now seen the dollars and the money come in on the Dodgers, move them to a $1.10 favorite in many locations. I agree with that move. Whenever I come back, the better team in Game 1 on Friday night is a cheap road favorite. That's the way I look to play it. Dodgers also had Thursday off, so easy travel from the West Coast. Atlanta, meanwhile, returns home after a loss to my Washington Nationals, and they are once again 1 game out of the wild card because of that loss. They have now lost alternated wins and losses over their last 7 games, but I think they get a back-to-back loss tonight. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the starting pitching matchup. Landon Knack has been back and forth from the minors and the majors, but he's been injury-free. He credits that to a gluten-free diet this year, even though half his time has been spent in the minors. So I'm not sure that gluten-free diet's doing too much for him. But seriously, he's actually got pretty good numbers. You look at his ERA overall this year. He started 9 of his 11 appearances. A 3.0 ERA is average, but a 0.96 WHIP is very good. So I do think there's some upside with Landon Knack. Meanwhile, Spence and Schwellenbach, also very mediocre numbers if you look at his ERA overall this season, 3.78, but he has a decent 1.12. So both of these pitchers do have upside, but my concern with Schwellenbach is that he's a rookie, and rookies sometimes start to wear down when they get into more innings than they normally pitch. He's almost near 100 innings for the season, and it really showed in his last outing against Toronto last Saturday at home when he gave up 10 hits, 6 runs, in just 5 innings pitched. Now, 3 of them were unearned, but it was still a really bad outing, and I think he could be wearing down here in the month of September. Let's take the pitcher, the much better offense, the better team overall at a pick-em price. LA Dodgers minus the 105 to minus 110 tonight at 7 Eastern on Friday. Don't forget, I post free plays every day. This game is not going to make my client card. I do have a bonus free play on my page for Friday night, 2 advanced college football plays for Saturday, but don't sleep on baseball as we enter Friday night. 24-6 and 27-7 baseball runs. You pick the one that sounds better to you. 24-6, 27-7. Smoking it in baseball. Get tonight's Friday best bet right now and save 13% instantly. You don't need the mask because it's Friday the 13th, but you get 13% off instantly with promo code FRI13, FRI13. FRI13 gets you 13% off today and today only. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
WT.buzz/SM, the quickest way to get there. WT.buzz/BL for Bryan Leonard, who has a 5%er locked and loaded. First one of the football season. Go and grab that winner over at Bry's page right now. And sure, you can grab just that winner, or you can check out 4 weeks of college football and NFL for under $50 a week. So you get over a month full of action for under $7 per day. That's loaded at both of these guys' page. So yes, you can buy just the 5%er that Bryan has rocking, or lock in a solid month of plays for a great deal. WT.buzz/deals. So we're looking at Chicago White Sox in the first 5 money line, and Steve with the breakdown there in the Dodgers and Bravos game. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what your best bet is this evening, and we'll be chopping it up with you. Don't go anywhere, though, folks. Less than 20 minutes from now, Wager Talk today coming your way. Gianni the Greek, Jeff Petch, that's right, the Mad Russian, the contest extraordinaire, going to be joining Teddy Covers and Lawrence Presman for Wager Talk today, the college football show, with the A-team coming your way this afternoon as well. Some more reasons than ever to hit that little bell and subscribe. We would appreciate it. Until next time, folks, best of luck. Cash those tickets, and we'll see you right back here for Wager Talk TV's first pitch Monday morning. Till then, best of luck, folks.